Okay, so hello and welcome to another Feature Friday. So, piping and instrumentation diagrams, P&ID as we know them well, are foundational documents that give our engineering, operations, and maintenance staff insight into the elements, the interconnections, and the relationships that a system of systems may have. They're a great reference for developing your location and asset hierarchies. But as with any architectural type of diagram, they have a language of their own that a person needs to have at least a basic understanding of to get the most out of them. There's lots of references on the internet as to how to read a P&ID diagram. So, if your organization is involved in supporting processes or a manufacturing environment, it is highly likely that you have stacks of P&IDs available for you to use in some form or another. So, where to begin using P&IDs to develop your location hierarchy? Well, before you get all excited about the P&IDs that you have, it's always a good idea to go verify them against what is out on the production floor or actually in the walls of your building. The drawings will be close, but you'll always find opportunities for a red line to adjust the drawing. Most likely your company has an official process to get these changes made, right? All right, so let's get going. It's all about the location. If you took a drone view of the P&ID that's on the desk in front of you, or use the laughably simple one that's been on the screen here for a few minutes, you may find lines of distinction that define the rooms, the floors, and the areas where the various components of the system reside. As you review the diagram, you may find, for example, valve 123, a valve of some kind, it's in room 101, and valve 1234, or 124, is in room 102. This is important information for your location hierarchy. And kind of as a side note, the section of pipe that's in between these two valves going through the wall could be characterized as a linear asset. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. So immediately you have a decision to make. How low do you go when it comes to establishing your location hierarchy from the P&ID? Many the argument has occurred around this concept, so allow me to add some fuel to the fire. So, is it reasonable to suggest that the location for valve 123 should just be room 101? Or in the context of how your organization captures cost, should valve 123 be in its own location within or under room 101? In that case, the hierarchy would look like the following. You start with your site, and then the building, and then room 101, and then, of course, a location for valve 123. And then, perhaps, most likely, the actual valve asset that is sitting at that location. Or would a simpler approach be better? Maybe something like site and building and room 101, but the valve asset is simply located in room 101, as would be all of the other assets that are in room 101. So the subtlety here is that valve 123, as listed on the P&ID, is acting more as a location than it is as an asset. Valve 123 is a description of where the device is in the system, not the actual piece of equipment, the valve, that is at that location. So while the initial design specifies the type of valve that needs to be at location valve 123, over time as valves are replaced, a completely different looking yet the same form, fit, function type valve may be present at location valve 123. If your cost accounting approach within your EAM system needs to be able to resolve costs down to the valve 123 level and follow that asset during its life cycle, then a location for valve 123 will need to be constructed. If just room 101 is low enough for costing purposes, then perhaps a location for valve 123 is not needed, other than, of course, room 101. It has to go somewhere. Remember we talked about linear assets? Those are things like pipes, roads, cables, things like that are typically broken up into segments for ease of identification. Remember that pipe between valve 123 and valve 124? The section of it in room 101 would be an asset at that location, and the section that's in room 102 would be an asset at that location. Modern EAM or even CMMS systems do have accommodation for linear assets, so be sure to look into that feature. So what if you don't use assets? You don't put them at locations. Everything's a consumable in your world. So we assumed earlier that you were putting assets with serial numbers at locations. This is a typical case where not only are you tracking where the equipment is, but also the costs involved with moving assets in and out of locations. Perhaps when the equipment is replaced, it goes out to a repair facility and returns to you in a refurbished condition. Perhaps, too, it gets replaced or placed back into inventory to be used in the future at a different or even the same location. However, if the equipment you're switching in and out is consumable, a replaced valve gets thrown away or recycled, then having a location level of valve 123 might still be important. By having location valve 123 in your hierarchy, any work done at or to that location, such as replacing those throwaway valves, can be captured. If you only had the room 101 level location, you would have no way of knowing which valve in room 101 got replaced. Somewhere in room 101, we replaced a valve. That's not necessarily good, but maybe in your context, the way cost accounting is performed, that's okay. We could go on for quite a while on how P&ID diagrams can help you form your location and asset hierarchies, but for now, we'll just give you a few minutes to go out and find some as a reference and start looking into this. Be sure to read the rest of the article that this video is based upon, and you'll find a link to that down in the description. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see y'all next week.